So we're going to start with something very simple, just to get going, because we just want to build community, right, through music. That's the main thing that we want to do. When we talk about standards, that gives me the chills. When we talk about standards, which I have to teach my undergrads all the time about standards, national standards, we talk about enduring understandings and essential questions, right? So the enduring understandings are those big brain ideas about what we want our musicians to come away with, okay? And when my students say, I want my children to feel safe in a musical community, I'm like, there's your enduring understanding. Let's go, okay? Because that's the first thing that has to happen. We have to build community. So we're gonna do a little bit of that today. Oh, for those of you that just walked in, my PowerPoint slide is, you can access it, all the notes and everything through this QR code. So if you wanna take a quick picture, go ahead and do that. And then it's on subsequent slides as well, but I'll just take a minute to let you do that. And again, if you run into technological problems, I am more than happy to email these slides to you as well, okay? It's just easier to go paperless. Paperless and make it easy access. Are we good? Oh, cameras are still up. Yeah, sometimes your camera has to zoom in. Hey, you're welcome to come on up here. You can't get it. Yeah. It's kind of like church. At some point, you end up having to go up front, right? Yeah. Our pastor was always good with my husband about that. Bill, get up here. You know, no sitting in the back. All right. So, please tell me my dongle's working here. Oh, yeah, it is. Good. It wasn't at first. Sing, sing together, merrily, merrily sing. Sing, sing together, merrily, merrily sing. Sing, 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 sing. Good, I'll sing one more time, just join as you can. Sing, sing together, merrily, merrily sing. Sing, sing together, merrily, merrily sing. Sing, sing, sing. One more time in unison. Nice job. Ready? And sing, sing together, merrily, merrily sing. Sing, sing together, merrily, merrily sing. Sing, sing. Yeah, this HDMI is a little finicky right now. So if it does, just point up to the front and I'll try to deal with it. Okay? You start. And I'm going to sing and run with you. Ready? And sing, sing together. Merrily, merrily sing. Good. Sing, sing together. Merrily, merrily sing. Sing, sing together. Merrily, merrily sing. Sing, 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 sing. Perfect. We got two parts right here. Right down the middle. Ready? And sing, sing together, merrily, merrily sing. Sing, sing together, merrily, merrily sing. Sing, sing, sing. Sing, 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 sing. Switch now. You start. You go second. Here we go. Ready? And sing, sing together, merrily, merrily sing. Sing, sing together, merrily, merrily sing. Sing, sing together, merrily, merrily sing. Sing, 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 sing. Oh, great. Now that we got our singing chops going. Next one on the list, that horn's going to kill me. I have relative pitch, so if I hear a different pitch, I go, my brain just goes crazy. Laugh, ha, ha, here's a merry jest. But if you will laugh last, you will laugh best. What's a jest? Do you know? I always ask the kids this. It's a joke, yeah, and they think, oh, court jester, right? Okay, a jester tells jokes, all right? Echo me, laugh, ha, ha, laugh, ha, ha. Here's a merry jest, here's a merry jest. But if you will laugh last, you will laugh best. But if you will laugh last, you will laugh best. Good, sing the whole thing with me. It's pretty simple. Ready? And laugh, ha, ha. Here's a merry jest. But if you will laugh last, you will laugh best. Good, 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 good. All right, going into round again with this. You start, I go second. Ready, and left, ha, ha, left, ha, ha. Here's a merry jest, but if you will laugh lest, you will laugh best. You were second last time, so you're going to be first. Ready, and left, ha, ha, left, ha, ha. Here's a merry jest, but if you will laugh lest, you will laugh best. Good, take a little look at that. Just go through it in your brain, because it's going to come back later. Okay, all right, you got it stuck in that brain? Okay, because I'm going to move on in just a second. All right, just plant the seed for some application for later on, okay, as to what we're going to be talking about. But first, who is this guy? Okay, who is that? Zoltán Kodály. It's a Kodály, yep, is how you say it. My Hungarian is not good, just so you know. My Hungarian pronunciation is even worse, but I can pronounce that name correctly, Zoltán Kodály. So his life and contributions to the world of music education. Everybody thinks that all he did, well, he was a composer, so if you know of his compositions, but there's a misnomer as to how much of an impact he had on the world of music education. As a caveat, there are kind of three main, and I don't want to say philosophies, I actually want to say philosophical and methodological paradigms in the United States that are used. One is Orff Schulwerk, which is Karl Orff, Orff schoolwork. Zoltán Kodály is the second philosophy that is used, and then the other one is Émile Jacques Delcros, a French pedagogue. Delcros people would tell you that they are not at all a methodology. It's a philosophical paradigm that you infuse into teaching. So, but those are kind of the three main in our culture in the last 60, 70 years in the United States as structures for curriculum and teaching music at the elementary level, I would say. Okay, at the elementary level. So Zoltán Kodály, his early years, just a little bit of history about him. He was born in 1882 in Kecskemét, Hungary. Okay, his parents were amateur musicians, and they moved around the countryside. Okay, all over the countryside, and lived in the country on the outskirts of Kecskemét, the major city. Okay, he loved to be in the hills, hiking through the hills. He was very active as a young lad. He was also a pretty darn proficient musician, pianist. He could play organ. Pretty sure he played some pretty mean cello as well. Yeah, he did. And was composing majorly by the time he was in secondary school, which would, American standards, that would be our high schools. But he was like off the charts brilliant. And he simultaneously entered into the Liszt Academy of Music and the University of Hungary, okay? At the Liszt Academy, he was there for a degree in composition. And at the University of Hungary, he was doing a dual degree in German and Hungarian linguistics, okay? And got them out at the same time. His first doctorate was in linguistics, okay? So he's a linguist, which is very interesting about, how that all ties into speech and rhythm and philosophies for how you integrate that into a curriculum. He was also one of the first, I could say, nationally or internationally renowned ethnomusicologists. Okay, so he was a linguist, an ethnomusicologist, a conductor, and most notably a composer. Okay, he composed hundreds of pieces over the time of his career. Okay, so he got the dual degrees. And about the same time that he was working on these degrees, Hungary was in kind of getting into that pre-war turmoil. They were actually under the guise of the Austrian Empire. Okay, so it was very Eastern European influenced, but it was Western canon was the name of the game. Okay, so there was the musical elite in Hungary at the time, and it was all led by Austrian and Germanic tradition. Okay, and what Kodály was peeved about, to be honest, was the fact that the elite only knew about that, but he knew that their own cultural heritage, folk music, even music of the gypsy culture, right, and were very rich in tradition, okay? But that was seen as peasant music, okay? It was viewed as peasant music. It was not music of the elite. It was simplistic, and it was poo-pooed, basically, okay? You went to the symphony. That's what you did. And you listened to Verdi, and you listened to Brahms, and you were well-versed in that, okay? And he and Bartók didn't like that, okay? About 1900, 1901, he and Bartók met up. Can you imagine Kodály and Bartók sitting in a bar having a beer? It's like, so how'd you two dudes meet? You know, like, how did this happen? Could have been at a conference. You never know, you know? But then they had started this conversation of they weren't liking what was going on politically and artistically in their home country. And so that set them on this crusade to start thinking differently about what Hungarian musical culture was all about, okay? And what was important to provide for the children of Hungary, okay? So what did it mean to be a musician, a whole musician? And he believed in holistic education. It was basically you, as a music teacher, you were feeding the soul of a child, okay? That's how passionate he was about revolutionizing music education in the country of Hungary at the time, okay? Some little known facts here, and I'm going to read them off my sheet because they're good facts. They're fun, but I don't want to forget them. So he met Béla Bartók in 1905, okay? And they searched for ancient roots of Hungarian music, and they composed their first work together in 1905, 1906 or so. They were totally snubbed by the critics, okay? Because it was their first composition was based on Hungarian folk music and folk music themes. And then they went out into the countryside and collected folk songs for the very first time in 1906 together, okay? And came up with a systematic way to annotate and systematize these folk songs that eventually by I would say between 20 and 30, there was 5 enormous volumes of these folk songs. Of course, by this time they had help, probably from a lot of grad assistants. Where they had 50,000 songs. Yep, 5 volumes that were systematically categorized, annotated and categorized, okay? And it was all from going out and doing field recordings and then transcribing them, okay? So it's pretty amazing the work that they did and the contribution that they made. And you know, I'm telling you, my bucket list is to get to Kecskemét and look at those volumes one day. And actually, my bucket list is to take a bunch of students to look at those volumes one day and see it. And the Kodály Institute is in Kecskemét, and it is a training institute in Hungary that still runs today. So by 1907, he graduated with his degrees. He was appointed professor of theory and comp at the academy at Franz Liszt. So he basically just went from done and onto the faculty. So he was really pretty brilliant as far as that is concerned. And so by 1917 and 1917, he decided he was going to become a music critic because he got sick of being picked on by the elite. So he's like, I'm smart enough, I can write. So he started writing about what was being done artistically in Hungary and in the major opera and symphonies. And so 1918, he was promoted to deputy director of the Franz Liszt Academy. Okay, so then he was the head honcho of the academy. Okay, all at the same time he's doing all of this work. He also became one of the musicians to join the Hungarian Republic of Councils. So when you hear that, the Hungarian Republic of Councils probably came together because they wanted to secede from what? The elite and what was going on politically with the regime. Wars were coming, and they knew that. So Bartók and Kodály were seen as quite radical at the time, okay? And they wrote about it and they spoke about it publicly, actually. So, which got Kodály in a lot of trouble with the academy. Because at the time, the academy was training elite musicians to be elite. And what was their repertoire at the time? Yeah, it was Western canon, and it was all Germanic and out of Vienna and things like that. So it was all Western canon, and he was actually critiquing it. And they weren't very happy about that, okay? So I think it was around 1923, 1921, 22, 23. They had finally kind of had enough with that. And so he was divested of his post, okay? So he lasted about 3 years as deputy director. And so at this time, he just went on his own. He had started composing a lot and had actually gotten some international acclaim by 1927 for some pieces that he had done. And so he was making a living. But then it kind of, the trajectory is he just pivoted. And what he pivoted to was, I've been complaining about our lack of culture and our lack of actually acknowledgement of Hungarian musical culture, okay? And so why don't I do something about this? And so he and Bartók continued to do their work, but his compositional priorities shifted as well. By this time, he was writing 333 exercises. Those of you that have been in Kodály training, that's the little book that has all these sight reading exercises, okay? And you use them for musicianship courses, okay? So it's sight reading exercises, and they start with do, re, mi. And they start with do, re, mi because, interestingly enough, that was inherent of German folk music, which is kind of ironic, okay? And then they get the 333 exercises get more and more difficult, okay? That was for training. He also wrote 50 nursery songs, okay? So he was writing and collecting folk music for schools, okay, for schools. By this time, he had a bunch of students that he had worked with at the academy that had decided that were going to help him kind of post-war start to make some changes in the schools in Hungary. It took a while, but they started what they called, under the government, post-war, the government gave them money to begin these singing schools, essentially. They were elementary schools, but they were based and steeped in music and arts, okay? And they were publicly funded. In fact, and I need to look up the date, because the first one was, oh, I'm sorry, he didn't leave the academy. He stayed at the academy. That's my fault. He was just divested as his post as deputy director. So he was demoted, okay? But I wanted to find the date of where he, the first specialized school was post-war. It was 1946. I just want to make sure I give you the right. And then from then on, many singing schools came after that, okay? And so what was going on in those schools, which was really interesting. People were really curious and they wanted to know. At this time, he was traveling all over the world, making speeches. The other thing that I want to point out is at the time, he spent a lot of time observing and studying the methodology of Shinichi Suzuki and Karl Orff, and he traveled to Paris to see Delcros teach, okay? He knew that all of this stuff was going on. And so you see a lot of the principles of that teaching in what he brought back to Hungary in the singing schools. He was a consummate student. You know how some people are just like career students? Yeah, I felt like one until my mid-30s and actually got the degree. But he just never stopped learning. He never stopped learning. He just immersed himself in anything he could and traveled everywhere he could. So he took on a lot of principles and things like that and studied what was going on around the world. At the time that he started the specialized singing school, his first wife in 1958 passed away, Emma, okay? And then in 1959, he married Sorolta. And Sorolta continued the legacy. The story goes that Sorolta was the daughter of a friend of his. There was about a 35-year age difference between the two, but they really worked in partnership. I don't think she was not a former student, but she was an educator and a music educator. 1966 was pivotal for the United States and Canada. He traveled to Toronto, and where he was, University of Toronto gave him an honorary doctorate. And also that same year in California, he was honorary chairman of the International Society for Music Education at Interlochen. Okay, he came over and did that. So the other thing is that he was the same year was the honorary chairman of Music Educators National Conference. Remember what that was? M-E-N-C. Now NAFME, okay? Now NAFME. So, so he hit the United States and Canada like a force. And they were like, who is this guy, right? All right. So came over and there was all this buzz about Kodály and what Kodály was doing. By this time, people in the United States were also, there was all this buzz about Karl Orff and what was going on at the Orff Schulwerk Institute in Austria. So, he spoke at these conferences. He spoke in Toronto. There was already, University of Toronto, there was already university students that were going over to Hungary at that time, okay? So this was 66, and then in March of 1967, he actually passed away at the age of 85. 1968, the NEA, National Education Association, began what was called the Alex Ringer Fellowship. And what it was a fellowship to send American teachers over to the Franz Liszt Academy and eventually the Kodály Institute in Kecskemét to train, okay? My mentor was a Ringer Fellow. And so to listen to her and her comrades talk about that experience, she was not a first Ringer Fellow, she was the second year, okay? To spend a year over there and just immerse themselves in the teaching. Most of the Ringer Fellows actually were already teaching in, interesting fact, were teaching in, I just lost it, Connecticut, Hart, the town. Oh. Yes, in Hartford, Connecticut. Yes, sorry, the Hartford schools, okay? They were teaching in the schools and they were recruited to do it. So then when they came back, they went into the Hartford schools, which is a very urban area to be teaching, and brought these principles, and that's where it kind of first started. I have copies from the Hartford curriculum. Actually, I have master copies that were given to me by my mentor that have the handwriting from the Hartford collection, 1971. You know, pretty cool. I mean, pretty cool stuff, pretty cool history going on. But then once they got to Hartford, it was like in the United States, it went like this. It just kind of flew. By the mid-70s, what began, and we're coming up on 50 years, yeah. The Organization of American Kodály Educators was created, 75 or 74, I can't remember all these dates, but we are coming up on 50 years, by people that had gone over and studied and came back. And at the time, we started American Training Institutes also. One of the very first ones in the United States was the Kodály Musical Institute that was out on the East Coast, KMI, and then they just started to grow and grow from there. Okay, so that's the kind of the history of like how it happened, how it got here. Now here's the deal. When we talk about music education in Hungary and music education in the United States, those are two completely different things. I can show you video footage of children in a music class in Hungary even up to 10 years ago in a singing class. And I've actually shown my undergrad kids this. I did an Introduction to Kodály Pedagogy course, and I had performance majors in it, and I would show them what some of these kids were doing. It is extremely formal and is extremely rigid, okay? It's extremely rigid. And I'm not saying that to diss Kodály people, okay, or how the Hungarians teach it, but it is very formalized education, okay? Anybody that was in my last session, what we were doing, rolling around and laughing and all that kind of stuff, you don't see that in the Hungarian singing schools. That's not, it's stand up, sing, sit down, do the next thing, analyze the next piece, you know? It's very formal. And today, it's still quite formal, okay? But it's the principles and the methodology that we want to build upon here to make the best music possible for children in the United States and for you in your schools, right? Okay, that's the important part. There is no one Kodály way. I'm going to tell you there are certain things that are said to me that I'm like, oh, thanks. Thank you very much. Maybe thank you. I don't know. Is one, I'm rigid because I'm a Kodály specialist. Two, I'm not creative because all I want to do is go through a scope and sequence. That's all I want to do is follow that scope and sequence. And three, all I want my students to do is read off the written page. And 4, all I'll let them do is sing. Okay? Then you have the Orff Schulberg people that all they do is they don't do any reading, they don't sing, they only chant. I mean, there's all these things that are said about pedagogues that are so untrue, And let me tell you, if you aren't creative with kids today, yeah, another career choice maybe, right? Because you'll just be miserable, and so will the kids, right? So those are kind of that's the bad rap of Kodály that's kind of out there, that we're rigid and we don't like. And someone did the caricature one day of myself in a these were Kodály students, by the way, in a black suit, and I actually have one on today, black suit, all buttoned up. And then my best friend, who was the musicianship teacher, and a guy, by the way, comes out in this long flowing skirt and Birkenstocks and everything like it. He was the Orff teacher for the day. So that was the skit, all the stereotypical things of what they're like and what they believe, and that it's just all out there and everything. It's just so not true. It's so not true. And you can use this as a vehicle for making incredibly joyful, inclusive music with students. Okay, so let's get started to the nitty-gritty. He's really interesting. So, and Kodály, his life and works, and then pedagogy in practice, or principles in practice, is another really great, just thin, easy read book that just does a total overview. Okay, but he has a very fascinating life. I just don't want to spend all the time talking about him, quite frankly. So here are the principles. Here are the principles that we want to kind of live by when we're Kodály pedagogues. We want active participation in music making, okay? We want a musical culture that's introduced as early as possible. He's noted as saying the music education of a child should begin 9 months before the birth of the mother. That's an actual quote from Kodály, okay? He was a huge advocate for early childhood, huge advocate, okay? Folk music is to become the child's musical mother tongue. Folk music is a huge, broad term, people, okay? When we talk about folk music, we have genres that hundreds that we can choose from, okay? Children should be taught with only the most musically valuable material for the young. Only the best is good enough. And when we talk about that, we do not talk about elitist music. We don't talk about that our end goal is somebody can play that Bach invention, okay? I am not dissing Western canon, by the way. Just so you know, I'm not. Western canon is a goal that you want to get to, but then there's all this other stuff out there in genres that you want to get to as well. It's not the only thing, okay, that we want to aspire to. Another bad rap that Kodály gets when he talks about elite music, that he meant only Western canon, and that is not true. That is not true. Sound and movement should be united united in the practice of popular folk games, okay? And then teaching techniques incorporate higher order thinking skills that are not only enhance the child's musical learning, but also strengthen the child's learning in other curricular areas, okay? I still say music for music's sake, okay? But tell me that it doesn't build the whole human being, that's just not true, okay? As far as the child themselves and also other areas and how they look at other areas of study. This is, I'm going to come back to that in a minute. So here's our methodological. Okay, method, I wrestle with this word, okay? Do you all wrestle? I need to go home. Wrestle with the word method. Why does method make people prickly? It doesn't sound crazy. Exactly, formulaic, right? There is no recipe, okay? So when we talk about methodology, we're talking about methodological principles. So when you put principles behind it, we're talking about kind of the how, but then what are the principles of the how? So now you've broadened that scope of this doesn't come first, then this, then this, then this, then this, okay? All right. Developmentally appropriate repertoire and activity should be presented in a sequential manner. That's pretty broad, isn't it? Right? What is that sequence? Everybody says, can you give me a sequence? And I go, no. But let's examine your repertoire with your children, and then we might come up with one, right? okay? It's on you, not on me, you know? So musical material should be taught using a progression of sound before symbol, okay? This came from watching Suzuki, okay? Because how is Suzuki taught? Suzuki methodology. It's just repetition. The parent is standing there modeling, okay? It's all by what? Ear. It's all by ear. He thought that to begin with, by the way. It wasn't Suzuki that converted him anyway, but it was just something that was, and also the being in this, the home environment and the parents being musical models is so important as well, okay? He really thought. The curricular structure is based upon the principles of Jerome Bruner's spiral curriculum structure. Okay, Bruner, we all know Bruner. Okay, yeah. One thing starts here, and then it comes back later. Just higher order thinking. I'm going to show you a model for that. All rhythmic and melodic patterns are derived from the context of quality repertoire. Stick that in your brain. We're going to go back to the other slide. It was in the wrong order, by the way. And then the principal instrument is the human voice. The basis for all instruction starts here. Okay, then it goes here. What am I playing right now? Xylophones, right? Okay, then it goes here as I'm playing a what? A hand drum. You know, all of those things, all right? Those things are super important, but it starts here. So a principle that I would say, like, if I'm going to do, we don't have xylophones here, if I was going to do something with you, and I can show you something that I'm going to do with you in a minute, it would all be sung first and then transferred to instrumental application, okay? You've got to train the ear first, okay? And the singing. So this one is an interesting one because I just want to give you, some people are like, okay, so what happens at those training institutes that you people have around the country, all right? All rhythmic and melodic patterns are derived from the context or quality repertoire. Okay, so we want to teach them some type of, and this is a huge term as well, some type of musical literacy. We'll talk about that in a minute. Some type of musical literacy, but when we talk about notational literacy and what we want to do, that has to derive from the songs that are being taught to the children. What do I mean by that? I mean this, Little Tommy Tittlemouse, collected by Leigh Ann Garner, Jill Trinka, and Nancy Johnson. Okay, so we annotated this and put it in our, at our institute, we have an anthology of songs that aren't analyzed because our students can do that. But at the bottom is a form of an analysis, okay? Now, there are analysis forms that are super, super intensive and long and get really into the nitty-gritty of a piece, and then there are some that are just basic. But to me, if you've just got the basics, pedagogically, you're in a good place, okay? You're in a really good place. So for instance, what's the tone set of Little Tommy Tittlemouse lived in a little house. Someone's calling me, oh my, someone's calling, it is I. Okay, it's mi, sol, la. The actual scale is a mi tritone. This is what Bartók and Kodály did with their 50,000 songs, okay? Not as extensive, by the way. This is a watered down version, okay? Extractable melody. This is what we want. So mi, la, so mi, and so la, so mi, and so mi, so mi. Those are patterns that if I were going to have some kids do some flashcards, guess what patterns would be on the flashcards? Those patterns. I have graduate students that are like, what patterns do you use for your flashcards? I said, let's look at your songs. Where's your music? Where are your extractable patterns? Those are the patterns that go on your flashcards when you're playing games and doing kind of fun rhythmic and stuff where they're doing some sight reading. That's where you get it. Okay, that's where you get it. And also, rhythmically, we have ta and titi. This is a really, it's a first grade song. So what are we going to put on our rhythm flashcards or in our rhythm exercises? Ti, 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 ta, ta, ti, 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 ta. And I'll show you an example of that in a minute. Okay? You can do form analysis, melodic and rhythmic form, if you're going to teach form. And then a pedagogic analysis is what grade level might I teach this at? What are some musical concepts and skills that I might connect to it? And then are there games, movement, and activities? And then who it's collected by, okay? And so in our institute, our students by the end of 3 summers have 150 of these, fully analyzed, and they have their own collection. And they're told every year to think about their children. What are you doing with your children? What are you singing with your children? What is your children's musical culture in your setting? Not my setting. They want my collection. They're like, can I have your collection? I was like, you can have some of my collection, but it might not reflect your children. So be careful, right? Okay. So they come up with this personalized collection that they get to use, and then it's all systematized, and they find out where those patterns are and how those patterns repeat. And that tells us pedagogically where to go. So it starts organically within the repertoire. Okay? All right, so when somebody asks me for a sequence, what do you teach first and what do you teach second? Right? That's why I say, let's look at your songs. And let's look at your index. And then we're going to figure out a scope and sequence for you. Anytime I go into schools and do consulting and curriculum, they say, can we have a scope and sequence? I said, no, we're going to figure one out. Give me your rep. Or I have the rep sent to me before I even show up so that I have an idea. And we talk about kind of that systemization. And then we come up, after all the enduring understandings and the big picture stuff, we can come up with a scope and sequence. It has to be reflective of what's already going on. Okay, there is no one sequence. Okay? All right, I just want you to know that. Okay, so here's Jerome Bruner. You can read that later, you know. Here's Bloom's taxonomy, right? Okay, which is married to it because we want to talk about those levels of skill and of thinking. Okay, all right. How they're married together is remembering or rote work is the basis, and you want to get to evaluate and create, and that's where those higher order thinking and the harder concepts spiral up. Okay, you go through Bloom's taxonomy with concepts over and over again, don't you, with kids? Okay, all right, but they kind of go side by side. All right, I told you there is no one scope and sequence, but I had to break down and give you an example. Okay, so these are in your slides. I'm not going to read it off. You can look at it later. This is an example of a scope and sequence for grades K through 5. Okay, this is based on 30 minutes a day or 30 minutes twice a week of music instruction. So just take it or leave it as it, but it's just kind of an example of melodic and rhythmic elements as they could occur in a curriculum. Okay, it's not the sequence. If you run out of here and tell somebody that I gave you the sequence, you're in trouble. Okay, I'm going to come hunt you down. All right, so it's just an example of what could happen in a sequence. Okay, all right, so there's 4, and there's grades 5 to 6, actually. Okay, all right. Methodological roots. We're talking about melody now. Okay, we're talking about methodological roots. We're taking those principles, and now how do we do it? How do we do it? How do we work with melody? We're going to work with kind of two media today, kind of, and we're going to start with Guido Arezzo, which was ancient first solfa. Okay, here's the deal. What's the difference between solfa and solfege? You know? Huh?
Some people say solfege if you're French, and some people say solfa here.
You are absolutely right, because what's the difference between the two of them? I don't want to put you on the spot.
I don't really know.
So, yes. Not quite. The French version is fixed do. Emile Dalcroze worked in fixed do. So C is always do. Okay, so that's solfege. Okay? Solfa is movable tonic solfa. So that means do can move anywhere it wants to. It's not stuck on C. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay. All right. So, but you were right. You were just right on the right path. Oh, the French call it solfege. Yep, for a reason. Okay, so solfege is fixed do, and do is always C. And movable tonic solfa is solfa. It's a little thing, but they do have two different meanings. How many of you went through undergraduate college using numbers for sight singing? Oh, I did too, but my childhood was solfa. How many of you use solfege, fixed do? Yeah. How many of you use solfa, movable tonic? That's good to see, because if we were doing this about 10, 15 years ago, everybody would have been like, fixed do, or numbers. Yeah. Numbers is crazy. Yeah, it was like, yeah, if you had a sharp, it would be the number plus the word sharp. Yeah, I still have moments of just like going, ugh. I had to almost teach myself, I was raised on solfa. I was raised by, not raised, but I mean, in school, I was raised by an amazing Orff Schulwerk teacher. She jokes, she's 85 now, we drink martinis together, and we've presented together too, which is amazing. But she jokes that, how did I go to the dark side? You know, how did I end up with the dark side? But she used movable tonic do sol fa all the time. When I got to St. Olaf, as an undergrad, I went to St. Olaf as well. It was all numbers. And it's like I had to teach myself this new language. So I would read everything in sol fa first, and then have to memorize the numbers. It was like an extra. And then I finally had a professor that was like, you want to use sol fa for this? I was like, yeah, can I please? And then I'd read it, and he'd go, oh, there's your A. You get an A now. Because what was I doing? I was tripping on the numbers. You know, it was a different language. And so then in 1800s, and this is what Guido's work looked like. That makes my head hurt. We actually used to read this. This is based on 7 tones, actually, 6 or 7 tones, I think. Only 6 pitches, 6 or 7. We used to have to read this in music history. Ugh. Right? Okay. So then we get to John Spencer Curwen, which was what? Curwen hand signs, right. We take the Curwen hand signs, and they look like that. Okay. All right. So people have just, these are actually how they're spelled out in Kodály's Principle and Practice. That's how they were spelled out by the Hungarians. I use D-O-R-E-M-I-F-A. And Fi is actually a sharp fa, sol, la, ti, ta, do. Okay? All right. All right. So let's do a little exercise. Just follow my hand signs. Starting in do, ready, and do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. Good. You're going to sustain a pitch now. This side you follow this hand, this side you follow this hand. Starting on do. Ready, and do, re, mi, sol, mi, sol, la, ti, sol, ti, do, sol, fa, mi, re, do. Little two-handed exercise you can do with middle school choir, right? Okay. Another really fun one to work on sol fa with them is, I don't know if you've ever seen this, but I did this with my littles. You throw a balloon in the air, okay, and you start do, and as long as it's in the air, it's a do sustained pitch. The next kid to tap it in the air, it's a re, mi, fa, sol, okay? All right, super fun for kids to do, okay? Do not keep your children in their seats. That's all I have to say to that. Just promise me one thing that you'll do in the next 2 weeks is, if you're in a choral classroom, get them up moving around, right? Okay, all right? And if you get a bunch of 7th graders going after a balloon, it's pretty funny to watch, by the way. They love it. All right, so we have our diatonic scale. We basically have our diatonic scale. So rhythmically, these are some of the tools, methodological tools that we use. It is not the method. They are tools. There's a difference, right? Yep. Because tools are utilitarian. They're used for a greater purpose. Okay? That's really, really important. Because I've had people say, well, they don't use hand signs. And I was like, so? But that's their deal, right? That's their choice, right? Okay? It's just a tool. Okay? All right. So then, what do we got here? Come on, Leigh Ann. It's a little example. All right. So we have, so I have these buttons electronically, right? And I go in based on how I present things and the order that I present things in, and I only use certain scales. So you saw the whole diatonic, right? So if you want a pentatonic, you would have what? Do, re, sol, do, re, mi, sol, and la, and you'd have empty spaces, right? So the tone ladder is really fun to use. It can also go this way, right? You can. I have houses, you know. So anyway, all right. So sing for me. Mi re do do, mi re do, do re Do, re, mi, do. Do, re, mi, do. I just taught a song using the ladder. And it's this one. Show in show, baby boy, father's pride, mother's joy. Show in show, baby boy, father's pride, mother's joy. Good, sing that one, sing it 2 times. Ready, and show in show, baby boy, father's pride, mother's joy. Keep going. Sleep, sleep, baby boy, sleep, my pride and joy. Sing the ostinato for me. Sleep, sleep, baby boy, sleep, sleep, baby boy, sleep, my pride and joy, sleep, my pride and joy. Sing that twice, ready? Sleep, sleep, baby boy, sleep, my pride and joy. Stand up. It's after lunch, I know. Okay, but this is a what? It's a lullaby. We didn't do this with my son. We did this with our son. Me and the baby Bjorn, right? Okay, but yep, it's back and forth. Sleep, sleep, baby boy. Sleep, my pride and joy. Sleep, sleep, baby boy. Sleep, my pride. This side, keep going. Sleep, sleep, baby boy. Sleep, my pride. Keep going, song. Show in show, baby boy. Father's pride. Take over the ostinato. Sleep, sleep, baby boy. Sleep, my pride. Song on this side. Show in show, baby boy, father's pride, mother's joy. Have a seat. So where do you think I'm going to put that ostinato next? What? Probably won't work, but good thought, though. Yeah. You get a little clinician in you. Little smooth transitions. I got to think about that one, whether it would work. And if it does, I'll give you a call. Pay you part of my stuff. But with my children, what would I do with that ostinato? Goes on metallophones. Goes on metallophones. Okay? So they sang it first, and it's do, do, so, 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 do, do, so, so, do. Okay? All right. So we sing it first, and then we do what? Transfer it into other media. Okay? All right. All right. So an idea of how we utilize this tool. Another one is, oh, here we go. It came back. I told you it was going to come back. Left. Oh, that horn is going to kill me. I just sing. Left, ha, ha. Here's a merry jest. But if you will laugh last, you will laugh best. All right, so singing that again. Ready, and laugh, ha, ha. Here's a merry jest. But if you will laugh last, you will laugh best. Very good. So at this point in my sequence, I'm skipping over a lot of stuff. I am working on zoop, my first half step. It's got fa in it. Okay? All right? So echo me. Do, so, do, so, do, do, re, re, mi, do, re, re, mi, mi, fa, fa, so, fa, mi, fa, fa, so, fa, mi, re, do. So what's the first thing that I did with you at the beginning? I just did what? We just sang it, okay? I would not be showing my children that notation, by the way. I did it for you as adult musicians. You could look at the words quickly and learn it quickly. But I would teach it by rote, okay? So sound before symbol. Second step is, before I even get to that ladder or that, I teach it do, sol, do, 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 re, re, mi, do, re, re, mi, fa, fa, sol, fa, mi, fa, fa, sol, fa, mi, re, do. Good, all right? So back and forth with the kids, and they memorize it. Okay, can you sing it from memory? Here we go, ready, and do, sol, do, re, re, mi, fa, fa, sol, fa, mi, re, do. Good, so we get to that point, okay, we haven't even gotten to this, because I want to do this. And I don't know why, I might put out a new slide, or slides that are in the right order, because we want to do this. All you choral people, listen up, because this is the singing cube, and kids love it, okay? So we've got laugh, ha, ha, right? Devon, you are going to roll this cube, and you're going to tell us what color you got. Yeah, I know. Pressure, man, pressure. We got red. What is red? Sing in unison and conduct. So you're going to conduct in two and sing on the text. Ready, laugh, laugh, ha, ha. Here's a merry jest. But if you will laugh last, you will laugh best. Penny's going to roll next. We got purple. What is it? So it's a round, okay? And we have to sing it in two parts on solfa. So do, sol, do, do, sol, do. I'll try to do double-handed hand singing, don't expect it. I'll jump in when I need to, okay? Here we go. Ready, and do, sol, do, sol, do, re, re, mi, fa, fa, sol, fa, mi, re, do. Thank you for memorizing that so quickly. Here we go. Is blue. It's going to be what? You're going to sing inside, okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to inner hear it, okay, until you hear me clap, and then whatever's left, you're going to sing outside. So in your brain, here you go. You will laugh best. Good, 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 good. Okay, and orange is sing in round or cannon. Why don't you start? Ready, and laugh, ha, ha, laugh, ha, ha. You. But if you will laugh, ha, ha. Here's a merry jest. Yeah, but if you will laugh last, you will laugh best. The kids are, I know, I'm so mean. Okay, so then our others are alternating singing in and outside. So like start inside, and then I tap something, and they go to inside, and then they go to outside, okay? So take something that they have memorized. You could take a vocal warm-up in a choral rehearsal that they've memorized on solfa, and do this, and get them conducting. They love to conduct. They love, love, love it. Yeah? Yes. Do you know what?
Inner hearing, they love doing that. They feel so smart.
Oh, I know. With a flip, you have a sign that says sing, think, or a face with singing and a face with a closed mouth. Kids love to do that with songs. This, for my kinders, looks like red is run, orange is skip, blue is tiptoe. So then we do a song that does locomotor movement, and they get to roll the movement cube. Ah, yeah. So, yeah, so lots of things that you can use, and if you don't have something like this, use a die. Use a single die and get a something to put up there, okay? So just ways that we can utilize it. So when we go back, this is what I want to get to. I want the children, this is the last step, I want them to be reading it on staff, okay? So here it is on staff. Read it through in your brain. So my kids have already read it, and I tell them, take a minute and read it through in your brain. Because, oops, I goofed. We need to find the mistakes in the notation. This is how I know, this is how I assess whether they know the rules of the staff. Okay, they need to tell me the reverse. Where are the mistakes? Here's what I want you to do, and as adult musicians, this is really hard. I want you to sing the correct solfa while I point to that notation. Yeah, for us that's impossible, not impossible for children. They just do it because they have it memorized, right? So sing it through, and then you're going to tell me where the mistakes are. Here we go. Ready? And do, sol, do, do, re, re, mi. Good. Mi, mi, fa, fa, sol, fa, mi, mi, re. Good. So where are our mistakes? What? Yep, second beat, measure 1, and I make them name the measure. They're like, right there, and I'm like, where? Right there. Where? Right there. Which measure, kiddos? Okay, they have to be able to navigate. Yep, second beat, then we go along. Measure what? 4. Measure 6. Yep, second beat, and measure 8. Good. Then I have kids, they identify where, then I have kids come up and correct it. Okay, so they put the correct pitches in, okay? This isn't interactive, so, okay? So just a little bit of example of how you can make the media of song and of singing interesting and mix it up with the kids, okay? And mix it up with the kids. We don't have a lot of time, so singing and solfege and the basic media of Kodály-Inspired tools, pedagogic tools. I mean, we could get into so many other tools, but I'm just giving you kind of some ideas of how these work, okay? All right? Okay, moving on to our methodological roots of rhythm. We have Emile Joseph Chevet and the syllables that he assigned to the rhythmic subdivision of an underlying beat. That is exactly what rhythm is. You have an underlying beat, and then you have sound that is above it that is some type of division of that beat, okay? It's sound in relation to the beat, okay? The rhythm syllables, and you can read how many articles on what to call rhythm syllables? About 1,000 right now, because there's so much, and I don't quite understand why it's a controversy, okay? Because here's my question when people start arguing about it, especially because I'll have we'll get into the discussion with my level students, because one will be using takadimi, one will be using TT, one will be using Gordon symbols, do, day, and whatever, and they're getting into why one's better than and I'm standing in front of them, have this discussion, I'm just like, why do you guys care? And I was like, does it work for your kids? And they're like, well, yeah, does it work for your kids? Are you consistent? Yeah, does it work for you? I said, okay, we're done having that discussion now. Let's move on. I mean, it's just like, the only time that it kind of makes a difference is when you have to make a decision as a school district, and you have a consortium of schools, and you've got kids moving in between the schools, and you need to have the same language. Then you kind of need to make a decision on what that language is. But as far as out there in the world, this controversy about rhythm syllables, I'm sorry, I don't get it. I just don't. But anyway, it's what works best for your kids, okay? That's my answer to it, okay? So anyway, I'm going to tell you what I've named mine and what I've used, because some people are like, oh, that's really interesting, and I'll tell you why. Ta and TT, obviously, rest, ta, tibby, instead of tiri or tika. The reason it was tibby, my mentor used tibby because you can see it on the children's lips. It's not in the back of the throat. Tika, tiri. If they're doing it right, you see tibby. And I was like, okay, I'll give you that one. All right, then tita. Some people use syncopa, that's okay. It's a play on syncopation, that's okay. The whole note should be there. We're missing a whole note. Ta. Then tibby, timmy, bitim, and tom, ti, and titam. Just the general duple meter rhythms. Compound, t, ta, ti, tom, ti, okay? Things like that. A bazillion different syllables you can use. It's just the ones that I've used over in my career, okay? So rhythmic work. Oh my goodness, little Tommy Tittle Mouse came back. All right. Little Tommy Tittle Mouse lives in a little house. Someone's calling me, oh my, someone's calling, it is I. And what it is little Tommy didn't make it into my suitcase. So we're going to use one of my birds from this morning. And Tommy Tittle Mouse is going to sing something. And so, little Tommy Tittle Mouse lives in a little house. Someone's calling me, oh my, someone's calling, it is I. So this is a guessing game. So I teach the children to sing, it is I, it is I. Good, we all get in a circle. And there's a guesser in the center with their eyes shut. And little Tommy Tittle Mouse goes up behind him and sings, "It is I," and they guess who it is, okay? It's just super fun. I teach it by rote. We play it. We play. They actually don't even really see this, okay? I had it up there for you to see the song context, okay? But where I go from that is, would you echo me, please? Ti, 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 ta. Ta, ti, 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 ta. Ti, 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 ta. Ti, 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 ta. Ti, 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 ta. Good. What am I doing? I'm extracting what from there? The rhythms. 4 beat motives at a time. So those rhythms would be listed on my analysis, actually, and in my index, okay? Those rhythms are on my flashcards. And those rhythms are in Tommy's houses, okay? So here they are. Not all of them. It's actually the ti, 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 ta, and ta, ti, 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 ta. I've extracted. And then I took a core rest pattern, and then ta, ta, ti, ti, ta. Would you please read the 4 houses in your brain? Tapping and a saying. Here we go. Ready, go. Ti, 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 ti. Well, Tommy wanted to conserve energy. He lives in Minneapolis, and it's darn cold right now, and his heat bills are up, so he decided to close his garage door. Can you remember what's there? Now you're going to tap it when you get to it. Start at the beginning. Ready, go. Ti, 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 ti. Excellent. How about this one? Oh, the garage is getting cold. It's getting really cold. It's snowing. And, nope, there we go. Sorry. Ready, and here we go. Ti, ti. Good. So I go through the story, and I want them to memorize the houses, right? And I make up this story about he's conserving energy and he loves to work in his garage. You can do whatever, right? But what do I want him doing? I want him practicing, and I want him doing what? Memorizing, okay? Another great way to use rhythm, and then I'll take a couple of questions, is this. I'm going to kind of race through this, and I'll play the end product for you, is teaching a song using rhythm. Teaching a song using rhythm. So, and I'll just do the first song. Echo me, please. Ti 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 ta ti tu. Ti 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 ta ti tu. Ti 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 ta ti tu. Ti 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 ta ti tu. Ti 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 ta ti tu. Ti 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 ta ti tu. Ti ta ti ta. Ti ta ti 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 ta ta ta. Ti ta ti 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 ta ta. What do you notice about the first 3 patterns? Yeah, so if we were going to label the form, it would be A, B. And it's hurry, 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 come on the run. Hurry, 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 day has begun. Come along and hurry, now there's work to be done. When we have finished, there'll be time for fun. And then I go to this song, or this rhythm, and it's, all right, I come now, all right, I come. No need to hurry, no need to run. It is too early, where is the sun? I am so tired that I cannot run. So I do the same thing. On one day, I teach the first song via rhythm. Okay, first they say the rhythms, then I sing the rhythms, they sing them back, then I add text. We learn that song. We sing it for a number of days. I do the same process with this song. Say the rhythms, sing on the rhythm syllables, do the text. Do that for a few days. And then they start singing Hurry, Hurry one day, and I'm like, as they're singing. I hum the second song while they're singing, and they're like, dude, she's doing something different. What is she doing? And I was like, what did I just sing? And they're like, oh, that song that we did the other day. I said, yeah, they're what kind of songs? Partner songs. So they end up partnering together. But the vehicle or the media or the methodological tool that I use is I teach it through the rhythm first, instead of just going, repeat after me. All right? It's practice while teaching a brand new piece, okay? And before we end, I actually have a recording of my littles doing it. They were so proud of themselves. I know the battery's 50%. I know we're connected. Let's see if it happens. February 28th, 2019. Where is Mrs. Garner's third grade babies? Yeah, they were so proud of themselves. Now, is that perfect? Oh, good Lord, no. Not by any means. And actually, as they did it over and over again, they got much more accurate at it. But that was kind of one of their third or fourth runs at it. And I was like, oh, and I always do this. Ooh, and they're like, ooh, she's going to record us. So then it's like a performance, and then they just, come up to the thing. So that's a vehicle of teaching it through media, the media of rhythm, and the tool of using rhythm as well. Okay? So with that, we have, it was in here. We have 2 minutes for questions. Sorry, I was going to leave more. I was told I was supposed to leave like 15. Does anybody have any questions at all? That's good I didn't leave 15 minutes for questions, because then you'd all be sitting here staring at me. That's fine. That's totally fine. So if you have any further questions or want more information about how to bring Kodály-Inspired Pedagogy to your schools or about training institutes, please come and talk to me. Okay, they're all over the country, by the way, because I know you are from all over the country. But St. Paul is a really beautiful place in July. It really is. But anyway, thank you so much for such a great session. Have a good afternoon. Yeah.